welcome back to my podcast. I wanted to follow up with last week's exploration on understanding childhood depression and sort of make a continuity of some other things that you might be looking at when you're dealing with childhood depression. I'm presenting again a clinical case vignette, and these are hypothetical situations that children may undergo when they're going through a depressive episode. And so even though you may notice some other things happening here, a lot of this can dovetail into depression or even anxiety as it relates especially to the things that children find themselves facing with COVID-19 and prolonged quarantine and being in home settings, what traditionally would have been called cabin fever type scenarios. And so this vignette again is a hypothetical situation. I hope it helps just understand certain things that we look for as it relates to childhood or adolescent depression. So again, we're going to start with Johnny. He is a teenage boy, and he's been having a little bit of a rough time as it relates to COVID-19. I'm changing up a little bit of the scenario here, and just to give you a different viewpoint of depression. And so over the past few weeks, Johnny's been showing some anger and irritability. He seems a little bit more snappy than usual and more quick to the draw, especially when his parents are asking him to do things. He seems off. There's just something isn't right that his parents could tell. When he comes home, he'll go directly to his room, he'll shut the door, and he's not seen until dinner time. His parents aren't worried all that much because his grades are remaining pretty relatively consistent. So even though he's in his room, he must be getting his work done. He'll only come out to eat, but when he does eat, he'll watch a show on his phone, and he won't really say much to his parents. His GPA is stable, like I said, and he seems to have online social relationships. He very much enjoys video logging like this, doing YouTube videos and stuff like that with his friends, and he hopes someday to become a famous YouTuber. However, when his parents will ask him to go out with them, he'll often refuse. He wants to stay home. He doesn't want to go outside. He gets a little bit anxious when he goes out. When he does go out, he may lash out at his siblings or his parents. And so Johnny seems to be going through a little bit of hardship. His parents are concerned here, but don't quite know what to do about it. And so they would like Johnny to be seen and to see what could be done. From a parental perspective, I would have some concerns here as it relates to my children if I saw something like this, because as parents, we know when things are off. We know when it's time to possibly have a person take a look and give an independent judgment. And part of parental concerns is we may not be able to explore or know what's going on with the children. They may be shut off to us for whatever reasons. A lot of times children protect their feelings from parents because parents always want to try and solve them. And unfortunately, when it comes to emotional health, parents may not be able to solve their children's problems for them. In fact, most often they aren't. In fact, sometimes parents could actually have a causal relationship to some of the problems that are going on. And so children will try to protect their parents' feelings as it relates to the things that are bothering them, because in essence, if what is bothering them are actions or whatnot that the parents may be doing, by telling the parents, they may in fact create more strife for themselves, or even worse, they may actually create the means by which they feel the relationship may end. Now, any parent that has undergone a process like this, they understand that these are probably invalid concerns, but nevertheless, a child does come from this perspective of wanting to keep the bridges operational that they have with their parental dyad, while they house a lot of feelings that may be left unsaid. The fortunate thing is that there's professionals, not only within the psychological realm, but also within the spiritual realm, that could help children express their feelings in a manner that helps them to get these things out. Now, with Johnny, he's showing a little bit of anger and irritability, and this is really common within depression, because really depression and anger are the same emotion. Depression is more anger turned inwards, where anger itself is towards an outwards function. So instead of maybe being mad that they're isolated in the home setting, they all of a sudden become mad at themselves because they just can't get things right, or they feel frustrated at themselves because they can't just do the things that they used to. Now, in external circumstances such as COVID, this could be a difficult process to overcome, because really there's an external push that you can't do these things. Well, part of that is really to find ways that they can begin to express themselves in a manner that is beneficial for their psyche and beneficial for their parents to undertake with them. A lot of these things could be as simple as going for walks outside, going on hikes to one's favorite outdoor spot. What I've done recently with my children, my wife and I would take them on outdoor walks in nature, and we'd run across deer. We began to conduct photography out there. We began to go to snow parks and different outdoor activities, really as a means to assist not only with giving them a break from the home setting, but also to help them develop new interests outside of the home setting. So they may be playing video games, but being able to explore the nature of where those video games may be made, or go out and see different areas that we're not exposed to. This gives the brain stimuli to grow from. And so one of the first things that we do as it relates to treating children with depression is really to try and elevate the mood. What was the mood pre-morbid? What were they like? What were their interests? If their interest was in baseball, or their interest was in sports, going out and having some outdoor activities around the sport itself, even though it may not be competition at this point, it's getting there. We're going to be getting there soon. But even if it may not be competition at this point, getting out there and hitting the ball and practicing and doing the reps needed in order to keep the mind up, keep the body active, keep the cellular memory going, so when competition time hits, they're hitting the ground running. Secondarily, taking a look at the social aspects that are there, because kids are very social beings, and now that they haven't had this socialization for almost a year now, one of the things that they can do is, online game with friends, form community forums around these types of scenarios for right now, but hopefully when school opens again, they'll be able to kick back right where they started and form the social relationships they need to bounce ideas off one another and learn from each other's developmental trajectory up. And so one of the things in this, as it relates to Johnny, he tends to be isolating. There may be some anxiety present. And so the more that you get him out, the more that you get him into these things, the better off he's going to be. Because what happens is, like like the psyche adapts to the idea of watching horror movies. Anyone who's watched a horror movie will know that when you watched a horror movie or a scary movie when you were a child, it was a very different scenario than watching a horror movie when you're an adult. As a child, your psyche's scared and it shelters you, and you hide behind your hands maybe. Or you hide behind your parents. And that's a perfectly natural reaction for a child watching a scary movie. As an adult, we become so desensitized to the topics explored, to the genre even, that it could even be comedic in some fashions or whatnot. It just doesn't have the same edge. And so the way that the psyche really handles anxiety or fear is to create the fight or flight mechanism. As a child, we may run, we may freeze, or we may choose to fight. And so these things all interact with one another. There's a lot of fear present, a lot of anxiety present around COVID. And some individuals are fighting against it. We see the people not wearing masks or whatnot. Other people are fearful of it and completely isolating. And really there has to be a balance between the two. There has to be something where individuals can continue to tend to their mental health, continue to tend to the garden of their dreams, while secondarily keeping themselves safe. And so part of this really is in social isolation. When you begin to get yourself out more, you begin to become more socially exposed, and you begin to test the courage function. Now, the courage function doesn't necessarily mean the reckless function. What it means is to do things healthy, to do things smart, and to do things that really speak to your psyche as it equates to your overall development. As it relates to Johnny, he may have some social anxiety present, so the more that he goes to the store or takes small trips and takes things in stride, haircuts or whatnot, as things begin to open up again, the better off he's going to be in his overall mental health as well as his overall development. Because a lot of what's happening here is because of the prolonged isolation, the prolonged lockdown in many of the states going on. We may have kept ourselves safe from a viral perspective. However, what's happening is the muscles in the brain are being exercised in a way that outside equals danger. Well, when that happens, it's very hard to untrain those muscles, because fear will keep itself locked in a reciprocal fashion as a means to feed itself. It's too scary to go outside. There may be someone that is sick, or there may be some source of anxiety present, so I'd better stay in. Well, I'm not giving my brain the candy needed to combat that. I'm not testing the validity of that internal belief, and therefore it's strengthening in itself. So now it's not a danger necessarily to go out because it's a pandemic. It's a danger to go outside because outside's dangerous. This is the way the mind works in a lot of ways. And so, from a parental perspective, keep aware of these things. I give examples from vignettes that I create as a means to show you different avenues of how depression and anxiety look in the child, in the adolescent. Some kids are more recluse, some kids are more angry. And so, in today's example, we explored a little bit of the anxious side and the angry side, whereas the last time we explored more of the isolative side and the falling apart side. So, any questions that you have, please feel free to comment. I'd be more than happy to answer in a future vlog. I hope this helps, and until next time, I hope you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams. Thank you for watching.